everyone, Rena back with another episode, and today we are going to talk about the most affordable Telecaster around, which is the Harley Benton TE20. And I want to know how good it is, and also I was quite curious if this thing could be upgraded to Fender specs. If you want to see my first impression while I unboxed this guitar, you can go and check my unboxing video right there. The build quality really impressed me for the price. This is only 89 euros and it has a really well-made neck. This is absolutely smooth, there are no sharp frets sticking out. Also, the edge here is really clear, and with things like that you can notice that there wasn't just somebody taking a machine and just sanding over here. So someone actually took their time and made it really nice. Let's see how sturdy the neck is, and you know the procedure. Oh god. This is quite a thing, I'd say. It's really sturdy. In order to determine how well the neck fits into the neck pocket, I always have this procedure, and basically all I do is take everything off the body and then I remove the screws from the neck, and all I do is try if I can lift the whole body up with just the neck. Let's see how that went. As you can see, this is really not bad. I think they've done a great job for the price again. I mean, you get a really sturdy and nice instrument at a pretty affordable price. The next thing that is interesting is the alignment of the neck and the bridge. And I always check like this. I put the guitar on my lap and then compare the distances between the high E string and the edge of the fretboard to the distance I see on the low E string and the fretboard. And this tells me that this guitar is a tiny bit off, but it's really so little that you don't run the risk of the string rolling off the edge while you're playing, so it's fine. The finish of this guitar, I think this is a beautiful thing. The color is lovely. It's a tiny bit colder than Fender's Lake Placid Blue, but it's also a really beautiful color, and I think it's called Midnight. Usually on guitars at the more affordable price tags, you will find not such a nice chrome plating. I think here it's okay, it's not perfect, but it's also not really visible from a longer distance, and I think it's fine. So here are some minor imperfections that are merely cosmetic, I'd say. The neck plate is not aligned 100%. You can see that the gap here is a little bigger than on this side, but hey, 89 bucks. The jack plate is also not perfectly aligned. On top of that, there are some minor glue residues like here, but these are of course just optical imperfections that don't really matter when it comes to playing. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that there's a tuner loose, you can see it here. Next topic is the playability, and the first thing that I need to mention is that the setup isn't great out of the box. We can see that the neck needs quite a bit of relief, and I will have to adjust it here at the truss rod and then set everything else up. Also, the string action is way too high. Again, if you are new to setting up a guitar, please check out my playlist about how to do a complete setup on a Telecaster. One weakness of this guitar is this type of bridge, in my opinion, because the 3 saddle bridges are more difficult to intonate correctly, and this is something I personally don't like, but I know that many people prefer these types of saddles because they have a fuller sound once you change them to brass saddles. Something that I like, on the other hand, is that the bottom plate doesn't have rims here on the sides, because these really hurt, depending on your playing style, of course. Oh yeah, by the way, hurting. These screws here are quite uncomfortable, and you can tell that the string action is way too high. So once I'm lowering all of these, this will be quite painful for my hand to rest here when I'm playing palm mutes. Okay, the acoustic sound, I think it's not so important, but as a beginner you might start without an amp, so let's hear it. I think it's not bad, but it's nothing special. So another thing about the playability is that both Alex and I noticed that for us it was a bit harder to play this guitar. And we tried to find out why that's the case. And while the nut width is 42 millimeters, like on the Squier Affinity, which was quite easy to play for both of us, the string spacing here is a bit smaller. So your fingers move a bit differently, they move closer together. Also, the neck is wider here at the 12th fret and also in the neck pocket. And in addition to that, the scale is a bit longer. So you have basically more force you have to put against the string in order to play a note. Of course, the bad setup, or at least the really high string action doesn't help here. And my guess would be if we were to exchange the nut for some wider string spacing and also set it up correctly, it should be a lot easier to play. And I know that some of you really like these Harley Benton necks and that you think they play really nicely. So it could be a combination of all these things happening here that we have, not such a great time while playing this guitar. This body is a basswood body and it has quite a nice weight to it. And you can also tell, just with me holding it up like that, I don't expect this thing to be top heavy at all. But let's try it out. This thing stays in place nicely, so I wouldn't consider it top heavy. Okay, next up are the components such as the hardware and the electronics. I think the tuners feel very nice in your hand, especially for the price. I mean, of course, if you have top-notch tuners, they hopefully feel a little bit better than these. But still, I'm quite impressed with them and I wouldn't change them. The nut seems to be okay. I'm not sure what kind of material it is, but I'd expect it to be some kind of plastic. And also the string spacing, as I already mentioned, is not to my taste, so I would be happy to replace it. Let's try if the neck pickup is microphonic. Hell yeah! Let's check the hum. Yeah, totally there, but vanishes once both pickups are connected, and this means that the polarity of one of these is switched. This is standard nowadays on all kind of Telecasters. Also, they didn't shield the cavities. As you can see, there is no shielding at all, but this is really nothing to be expected at this price tag. This switch, I think it's really hard to switch. It kind of reminds me of a really old car when you're driving stick shift, and yeah, it's horrible. Kind of feels like that. Reverse. Damn. Okay. But on the plus side, this time on this guitar the pots don't squeal. Silent mice. The pot's rotation axis is again not completely in center, but we already know that potentiometers from the cheapest price range usually have this kind of problem. Again, the jack is nicely in place and this works fine. Next chapter is the sound. And this guitar has been recorded with the exact same settings as the Square Affinity Telecaster. And if you want to compare these two guitars, you can head over to my website bandforge.net and check out how they compare to each other. What do you think of the sound of this guitar? It's not my personal preference, I'd say. It's not one of the strengths of this guitar, but for the price, this is a sound you can work with. And of course you can change the pickups and the electronics at a certain point. But here is something that I found out. The pickup placement in comparison to a Fender guitar is a bit different. So these two pickups, especially the bridge pickup, is moved more to the bridge itself than on a Fender guitar. And this has an influence on the sound. So what this means is that if you were to swap out these pickups for, I don't know, Fender pickups or something else, they will not sound exactly the same as on a Fender guitar, but it doesn't mean that it sounds bad. So it's not a warning, so to say, it's just something I noticed and I wanted to share with you. A pickup that's more towards the bridge will sound a bit thinner and also a bit quieter, of course. When playing this guitar and also listening to the sound demo, something that really was, I think, obvious to my ears was that the guitar doesn't react so well to subtle differences in playing. and I think you can also hear it in the sound demo. And this could be, of course, the pickups or the electronics, or even the combination together with the strings. So I would suggest you, before running to another shop and replacing these pickups, try different strings. We will make another comparison video between this guitar and the Squier Affinity Telecaster, but before we do anything like a sound demo, we will equip it with the same strings, do a thorough setup, and then see how they really sound compared to each other. So please press that button and don't miss it. Here's a little extra on the compatibility, and the first thing that came into my mind when I saw the headstock of this guitar was the question if I could cut out the original Fender shape. And so here's a little experiment. I won't take out my hacksaw, but let's see. So as you can see, there's a part missing. So by just cutting this thing off, you won't end up with the original Fender shape. There are many more, like big headstocks, and they all share that here's something missing. So in order to make this look like a Fender headstock, you would have to glue a piece of wood right here. Another question is if you are able to fit a Fender neck into this neck pocket. And thing is, I don't own a Fender Telecaster, but I have this Squier Affinity, which could be different, but still I tried it out, and it has a gap of, let's say, 1 millimeter on each side approximately. And so if I really wanted the Affinity's neck in this neck pocket, I could put some strips of veneer here on the sides in order to stabilize it. So it's doable, but not without adjustments. The pickguards. So this is not a pickguard that you can just replace with a Fender one. The Squier Affinity pickguard is compatible to the Fender, and so I tried the Affinity pickguard against this one, and as you can see, the shape is different. You can get a Fender pickguard to fit on here, but there are still some adjustments to be done. So if you really want a Fender pickguard on this guitar, you will have to fill in all the screw holes, redo them, and also cut a bit off here because otherwise it will overlap into the neck pocket. Also, the control plate will not fit anymore. The body contour is a bit different. This part right here goes deeper in the Fender shape. But other than that, they are quite similar to each other. The bridge has a bit of a different geometry, but the same width. Here's the conclusion. I think for the price you get a very high value guitar with an amazing build quality. But I think the sound is not the greatest. And as we discussed earlier, exchanging pickups will of course make this better. But yeah, you won't get just the Fender sound, if there is such a thing anyways, because of the distances. The longer scale kind of makes it harder to play for female players because we usually don't have the finger strength of men. And so for any female players watching this, I would suggest to switch to 8-gauge strings. And I think then you will have a better playing experience, especially when playing bendings. But the downside of this is that the sound will be even thinner. So yeah, you have to decide what's the right thing to do here. Apart from that, I think for beginners and for anyone who wants something like an affordable backup guitar or just some first experiences with a Telecaster, I think this is really a great option, especially for the price. I think it's a really interesting basis for a lot of mods and yeah, investigations. I mean, a longer scale guitar, maybe I should experiment with drop tunings or something like that. Please let me know what you think, because you know that I'm crazy for experiments, so let me know what you want to see next from this guitar Of course, the comparison will be the next thing to do with this guitar, but still, you know, I'm all ears. Yeah, I mean, for 89 euros, you get a really beautiful guitar. Of course, and this is a finger pointing at myself, it's not for Fender headstock snobs or, or any of the kind, but if you can look past that, or if you are not as snobbish as some people we know, I think it's really a really great guitar. I personally want to see what happens if we change the string spacing. I want to put a GraphTech nut right in here, and I want to see if we can change the space here and also up here, and in order to get a different sound before changing pickups. So yeah, I think that's about it, and let's peel off that protection foil. Oh, there's another. There's a second foil. So double the fun. Let's go. Nice. All right, that's it for today's episode, and I'll see you next week. Bye.